Let me tell you about the safest place I have ever known. It was not a fortress or a castle. It was a simple 3-bedroom house on a quiet street. It was the place where my children took their first steps. It was the place where we painted the walls with colors we argued over for weeks. It was the place that held every single memory that mattered. And I almost lost it all because of a single piece of paper I thought was a waste of money. Home insurance. I saw it as a monthly bill for a disaster that would never happen. Until the day it did. I want you to think for a second. What does the word insurance mean to you? For me, it was a clever trick played by big companies. They sell you fear. They make you imagine your house flooding or burning down. Then they offer you a solution for a fee. I was a practical man. I calculated the odds. The chance of a house fire happening to me was so incredibly small, it might as well be zero. I was careful. I did not leave candles burning. I checked the wiring. That monthly premium felt like money set on fire for no reason. So I made a choice. I canceled the policy. The first year without insurance felt liberating. I was saving money. Every month when that bill did not arrive, I felt smarter than the system. My wife Sarah was not so sure. She would mention it sometimes. What if a tree falls on the roof? What if a pipe bursts? I would laugh it off. I told her we were saving hundreds of dollars a year. We could use that money for a family vacation, for new furniture, for real things that brought us joy. I convinced her that the risk was an illusion. I was so confident, so utterly sure of my own logic. The day it happened started like any other Tuesday. It was autumn. The air was getting crisp. The kids were at school. I was working from my home office. Sarah was running errands. The house was quiet except for the hum of my computer. I remember making a cup of coffee. I remember thinking about what to make for dinner. There was no sense of dread. No warning. Life was completely normal. That is the thing about catastrophe. It never sends a memo. It just arrives. The first thing I noticed was a smell. A faint acrid scent like something plastic was overheating. I thought it was my old laptop charger. I unplugged it. The smell did not go away. It got stronger. Then I heard it. A faint crackling sound. It was not coming from my office. It was coming from the walls. My heart started to beat a little faster. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. I stood up and walked into the hallway. A thin gray haze was creeping out from under the door to the garage. That is when the fear hit me. A real physical fear. I pushed the door open and the haze thickened into smoke. I could see flickering orange light coming from behind the water heater. Flames were licking up the drywall. They were small then, but they were fast. They moved with a terrifying hunger. My brain froze for a second. This was not possible. This was my house. The next few minutes were a blur of panic. I remember shouting into the phone at the emergency operator. My address tumbled out of my mouth. I remember grabbing the fire extinguisher from the kitchen. But by the time I got back, the fire was not in the garage anymore. It had found a path into the ceiling. The smoke was so thick I could not breathe. I had to get out. I stumbled out the front door into the cold air. Choking and coughing. Standing on my lawn, I watched it happen. The sirens grew louder, but the fire grew faster. The windows of my garage turned black, then exploded outwards. Flames were visible through the upstairs windows. The house we brought our newborn son home to. The house where we celebrated birthdays. It was being eaten alive. And I was just watching. Helpless. The thought hit me like a physical blow. I had no insurance. Everything was gone. And it was my fault. The firefighters arrived. They were amazing. They moved with a brutal efficiency. But for me, time had stopped. I stood there shivering in my t-shirt. Sarah arrived home. I will never forget the sound of her scream. The pure horror on her face. She ran towards me asking about the kids. I told her they were safe at school. We held each other and cried as we watched our past burn. The fire was eventually put out, but the destruction was absolute. The garage was a charred skeleton. The entire ground floor was ruined by smoke and water. The upstairs was damaged beyond repair. We were not allowed to go inside. Everything was gone. Our clothes, our photos, our children's toys, all of it. We were left with the clothes on our backs and a profound feeling of emptiness. That first night in a hotel room was the longest of my life. The smell of smoke was stuck in my nose. The image of the flames was burned onto the back of my eyelids. But the fire was over. A new battle was just beginning. The battle of what comes next. How do you rebuild a life from nothing? The financial reality started to sink in. The mortgage on the house was still there. The bank still wanted its money. But the house was a shell. We had to find a place to live. We had to buy new clothes. We had to replace everything from toothbrushes to furniture. The cost was astronomical. Our savings were wiped out in weeks. We had to borrow money from family. The stress was immense. Every conversation was about money. Every decision was a reminder of my mistake. The guilt was a heavy weight on my chest every single day. I want to pause here and speak to you directly. If you are someone who thinks like I did, if you believe it will never happen to you, I am not here to scare you. I am here to tell you that the math I did was wrong. I only calculated the probability of a fire. I never calculated the consequence. The probability was less than 1%, but the consequence was 100% devastation. The small monthly fee is not a payment for a probable event. It is a payment to completely eliminate the consequence of a catastrophic one. The rebuilding process took over a year. We lived in a rental apartment that never felt like home. The insurance we did not have was not just for the structure. It was for so much more. It was for a place to live while our home was repaired. It was for replacing our personal belongings. It was for liability if someone had been hurt. We had to navigate all of that alone. The paperwork, the contractors, the costs. It almost broke us. I started to research what home insurance actually covers. I was shocked. One had been so ignorant. A good policy is not just for fire. It is for theft. It is for storm damage. It is for a tree falling on your roof. It is for a guest who slips on your icy driveway and gets hurt. It is a safety net for your entire financial life. It is the foundation that everything else is built upon. My house was built on a strong foundation of concrete, but my financial life was built on sand. We finally moved back into our rebuilt house. Looked similar, but it did not feel the same. The new walls did not have the memories in them. It took a long time for it to feel like a home again. The experience changed me. It changed my perspective on risk and responsibility. I am now the biggest advocate for home insurance. I talk about it at barbecues. I probably annoy my friends. But if I can stop one person from making the mistake, I made it is worth it. So what should you do? First, if you have insurance, pull out your policy. Actually read it. Understand what it covers and what it does not. Is it enough to rebuild your home at today's construction costs? Does it cover the full replacement value of your belongings? If you are renting, you need renter's insurance. Your landlord's insurance only covers the building, not your stuff. If you do not have insurance, please get it. Today, it is one of the most important financial decisions you will ever make. Shop around. Get quotes. It is more affordable than you think. The peace of mind is priceless. I pay my premium every month now. And you know what? It does not feel like a waste of money. It feels like I'm buying back my peace of mind. It feels like I'm protecting my family. It feels like the most important bill I paid. Our new house As a fire extinguisher on every floor. We have a detailed escape plan. We are careful, but we are also protected. The trauma of that day will always be with me, but it taught me a lesson I will never forget. Your home is your castle. It holds your life and your memories. Do not leave it undefended. Insurance is not a bet against disaster. It is the shield that protects you when disaster strikes. I lost almost everything physical that day, but I gained a new understanding. We survived as a family. We rebuilt. And now when I sit in my living room with my family, I feel a different kind of safety. It is not the false safety of believing nothing bad will happen. It is the real safety of knowing that even if something does happen, we will be okay. We are protected. Make sure you are too. Thank you for listening to my story.